This is Gemara Rosh HaShanah Daf Lamed Gimel. All the learning for this week as we forge ahead forth into the end of Masechtas Rosh HaShanah has been generously sponsored by a close friend of the Daf, Lischos Refuah Shlema for Pesha Bas Meira, the learning of the entire Chabura. Such a tremendous Kiddush Hashem should be a tremendous Chos Refuah Shlema Bekara for Pesha Bas Meira, as well as learning should be a Chos Shidduch Yisochem and the very Shemirim Bas Yisrael Giddush and Ezber Shanamak the Mercha Ben the Bashina the Giddush Bas Handle, as well as Chos Refuah Shlema Shvil Yisben your faith of Eschanim and Zima Zedel Men and Vega Chaim Esar Sham Zima Reizel Service Knendel Ita Basim as Chaysay Sol Mendel to Pedro Shalei Shom as Nami Bechafik Shechan Shmol Matil Din Khan Rizim Chay Besmina at the end of Beshin Minas Vim Vegar Kham Khalei Sun Zel Hoover Goshem Tazim Lester Besay we're holding towards the bottom of the second to last Mishnah. Just to point out one dot, I read a little fast and I made a slight error, is that yesterday we concluded the Gemara explaining what were the psukim of Malchias, and the Gemara said, what are we going to do? We only have 3 psukim of Malchias, and then the Gemara quoted those 3 psukim of Hashem Elokiv Yimai, Churas Melech Bai, Vishor Melech, Hashem Yimlech Lelam Vayit. And I quickly said, no, it's 4 psukim. That's wrong, because the Gemara said there are only 3 psukim of Malchias. So the answer is obviously that this first one is one pasuk. Hashem Elokiv Yimai, Churas Melech Bai, Vishor Melech, and Hashem Yimlech Lelam Vayit. Now we pick it up towards the bottom of Lamed Beis, Mid Beis, the second to last Mishnah on the page. Someone who is davening for the Amud on Rosh HaShanah, Hasheni Matkiya. The second one, matkiya, causes the shofar to be blown. Ubishas halal or rishon makris halal. But when it comes to saying the halal, the first one is where the halal is read. What is this referring to? This is referring to the sheni and the rishon. If we can find the Rashi quickly, we will. Yes, Rashi over here says, Hamispalel tfilas musafim matkiya. The one who davids musaf matkiya causes the shofar to be blown. That when it comes to the shofar, we blow shofar by musaf. When it comes to halal, we do halal by shachris. And there are those who also take reference that Hasheni sounds like it's not the person davening Musaf itself. It sounds like it's a second person. Perhaps this is a marmakim that the one who's davening Musaf should not blow the shofar. However, halach lamaisa we know that is allowed as long as he's proficient. We have Sidurim, etc. He's allowed to do both. Says the Gemara, Mai Sheni Matkiya. What does it mean that the one who leads Musaf causes the shofar to be blown? Misham hadras melech. Because we want a lot of people there, and therefore there's going to be more people by Musaf, so we blow shofar by Musaf. Says Gemara, Yachi halal nami name of Bisheni. Halal should be said by Musaf. We should beroiv hadras melech. We see showing up the late to shul. Unfortunately, is not a new thing. Elamai shna halal de berishin. Why do we do halal by shachris misham? Zrizim makim the mitzvahs. So says the Gemara, Tkiya nami avdi navid berishin misham tkiya. Zrizin makdim the mitzvahs. And of course, the classical issue that we have, Zrizos versus Roivam, is a question that people have by many a bris. You want to do a bris first thing in the morning for Zrizin makdim the mitzvah, but you also want people to show up. If you do your bris at Neitzacham at 5:30 in the morning, no one's going to be there. So you have this tug of war between Roivam and Zrizos. What do we do? Over here we see halals in the morning, Musafs in the afternoon. What exactly is going on? Says the Gemara, the reason why shofar is in the afternoon was because of a gzeira. And on this we have a machlekes Rashi and Taisus exactly what's going on over here. We don't really have the time, but just to mention that Rashi over here says that they made a gezerah that they cannot blow shofar, so they waited for 6 hours. The Goyim waited for 6 hours to hear we gonna blow the shofar, and we didn't. So they left, and after they left, after we finished Shachris, then we blew by Musaf, and that gezerah stands. Taisus over here asks the obvious question, there no longer is that gezerah anymore, and therefore Taisa says, even though Zrizim Makdim in the mitzvahs, still we are afraid that maybe it's going to go back and revert back, and therefore we can still do it by Musaf. Taisa then quotes Yerushalmi that says another shot that says that the Goyim thought that we're waging war, etc. Everyone can take a look at the top thesis on their time. Says the Gemara, Midika Amr b'Shas Halal, from the fact that it says the time of Halal Mechlal Rosh HaShanah, like a Halal. The simple reading of the Mishnah concludes that Halal is not a Rosh HaShanah. Shofar is Rosh HaShanah, Halal is not. My time, why is no Halal in Rosh HaShanah? Amr Avavua, says Avavua, Amru Malacheh Shars of Ne'akadosh Baruch Hu. The Malachim said to Hashem, again, not that many times, we've had this already once or twice, we had this by Gemara and Shabbos when Klal Yisrael got the Torah. But how many times we have the Malachim asking Hashem, Ribono Shalaylam, Neiman Yisraelim Shira, Lefanecha Rosh HaShanah. Why is Klal Yisrael not saying Shira on Rosh HaShanah and Yom Kippur? Again, we also see how beloved what we do is, that the Malachim are taking our actions up to Hashem and asking if we are right or wrong. Amar Lahem, Hashem responds, Efshir Melech Chashav Al Kisei Din. Is it possible that the king is sitting on the throne of judgment, and books of life and death are open? And they say Shira, so of course they should not. Hashem saying that of course it is the right thing to not say Shira, which is the reason we do not say Hallel on Rosh HaShanah Yom Kippur. Says the Mishnah on the bottom of Lamed Beis, Shefer Shel Rosh HaShanah ein mavir nelav es tzchum. On Shefer Rosh HaShanah we do not carry from outside the tzchum to bring the Shefer to shul. Similarly, we will not dig it up, even though digging up the rubble is only a din of muksa, which is a very low level derabanan. There's no makar in the Torah. Still, we do not do it for the mitzvah of Shefer. We don't go up in a tree. We don't ride on an animal. We don't swim. We don't cut a Shefer off the animal, whether it's only a derabanan type of cutting, or whether it's a deraisa cutting. The one thing you're allowed to do, if you want to rinse out the Shefer in order to make it sound better, that you would be allowed to do. Similarly, he says the Mishnah, we don't stop children from blowing the Shefer, but we deal with the children until they know how to blow the Shefer. The Gemara will discuss exactly what's going on over here. Someone who just blows the Shefer without thinking is not Yotzi's obligation, but so really three different parts of the Mishnah. The first part of the Mishnah is dealing with, are we allowed to be over Isurim to get the Shefer? Then we dealt with the part of the Mishnah, children blowing the Shefer, and then finally not having Kavana blowing the Shefer. Says the Gemara, my time, what is the reason we're not over an Isser D'Rabbanan for Shefer? Shefer Aseyu. Shefer is a Din D'Oraisa, V'Yontav, Asei V'Loisa Asei. But on Yontav we have an Asei and a Loisa Asei, and therefore, V'In Asei Doichas Loisa Asei V'Asei, and therefore, even though it's only a din derabanan, but keeping Yontif is as well has a deraisa with it, and therefore the asay and the lois asay of Yontif forbids one from being over in order to do the mitzvah of a shayfer. Of course not. If you're not going to even be over derabanan, why do you have to tell me you can't be over deraisa? Says the Gemara, you're right. It's not a bigger chiddush. It just means you can't do this, and you certainly cannot do that. You cannot be over the races, nor can you over the rabbanans in order to blow the shayfer. And says the Gemara on the top of Lamed Gimel Amar Aleph, you cannot cut off the shayfer whether it's a derabanan or deraisa. Misham shvos migla. What's a derabanan way of cutting off a shayfer? Is a migla, is a sickle. Loisa say what's a deraisa? A sakina is a knife. Misham shvos amr loy loisa say me. By the same question we had a moment ago. You can't do a derabanans, so of course you can't do deraisa. Why does that have to say it two different times? Explains the Gemara, Zubein Zarach Leimer Zukatani again, saying you don't cut with a sickle, which is derabanan, and certainly and not needless to say this, you don't cut with a deraisa. You're allowed to put wine or water inside the shayfer. Says the Gemara, Mayim Yayin in Miraglayim lo. You're not allowed to rinse out the shayfer with Miraglayim. The simple shot, this refers to urine. Some say this is a type of herb, but the fact that the name is a negative name, we do not do. Says the Gemara, Mastisan Mani Abashali is Abashal the Tani Abashal Omer. On the last narrow line, why are we allowed to put water or wine inside the shayfer in order to rinse it out, to clean it out? Because it is not bakavadik to rinse out your shayfer with miraglayim. And obviously it would seem that even though it would do the job, it would clean out the shayfer, would make the sound better, but it's still, we can't do something that is lacking in honor, even if we're going to have a good result. So the Mishnah concluded with two different dinim, a din about children and a din about kavana. So first of all, it said we do not prevent the children from blowing. Says the Gemara, hanashim akvin. Sounds like only children we do not prevent from blowing, but a woman we would prevent from blowing. Says the Gemara, we learned in a brisa, neither children nor women do we stop from blowing. So why did our Mishnah say only children? Rav Shimon. It's a machlokes Titania. Daber al bnei Yisrael. It says to speak to bnei Yisrael. Bnei Yisrael samchan de bnei Yisrael samchan divrei Rav Yehuda. A famous machlokes when it comes to smicha, leaning on an animal. Do women do that? Says Rav Yehuda, no. It's a din only for bnei Yisrael, not for bnei Yisrael. Rav Yisrael Shimon Aimer Nashin Samchas Rishos. They are allowed to do it, and here lies in a very, very famous machlokes. First of all, just to mention that Rav Yosef and Rav Shimon, they're going to be the ones that say women are allowed to blow shofar, just like they're allowed to lean on the animal, whereas the Tanakam Rav Yehuda will say not. And from here we have the very, very famous machlokes. Are women allowed to do mitzvahs aseh shezman grama? Are they allowed to? What's the difference? It seems you can do whatever you want. Can you make a bracha? Would a woman make a bracha on a mitzvah say shezman grama? And over here, this tremendous thesis deals with this topic. If we could find one line to highlight over here, is that, yes, Tosfos in 3 lines into the narrow lines points out, umutaras levarich al mitzvah seishes man grama afal gav tibeturais min dvar mitzvah he. The women are allowed to make a bracha, and who argues on Tosfos? The Rambam and the Chachmei Sfarad. They hold women are not allowed to make a bracha mitzvah seishes man grama, and of course this boils down to machlokes mechaber Sfardim Ramah Ashkenazim, and this goes all the way to many, for example, shaking a lulav in an esrog. Sfardim in general would not make a bracha as in a mitzvah seishes man grama, whereas Ashkenazim for women would, because they have a rishos, so they are allowed to do it. This Tosfos, this Gemara is one of the tremendous sources to this point. Says the Gemara, but we deal with the children until they learn how to blow the shofar. 5 lines in the bottom of the Amid Amar Rav Elazar. Afilu b'Shabbos. Tanam Yachim es askim lamdu afilu b'Shabbos. Vein ma'akin atinaykid milutzkaya. And we don't stop them from blowing. B'Shabbos. Vein zarach leimer b'Yantif. And needless to say on Yantif. Says the Gemara, pause and read what you just said. Hagufa gasha, that is inherently a contradiction. Read first you said misaskim emachi lamdu, that you deal with them. It tells that you teach them, you help them, you aid them. Vafilu b'Shabbos alma lechatchila amrina teku. That tells like lechatchila we tell the children go blow shofar. Teach yourself. It's a good thing for you to do. But then it says v'adar tani ein ma'akvin, which sounds like ikuva utlay ma'akvin. Al lechatchila lay amrina teku. So what is it? Is it a din daraisa or is it a din lechatchila or is it a din b'diavad? First it sounds like it's only it's lechatchila, then it sounds like b'diavad. Do we tell them to blow or not? Answers the Gemara, lo kasha kan bekoten shegiya lechinuch, kan bekoten shlo yigiya lechinuch. Which is which? So the Tab Rashi points out, kan bekoten shegiya lechinuch, misaskim ben shilamdu. We teach them to blow v'kol shkin she'in ma'akvin, and certainly we don't stop them once they are yigiya lechinuch. Tosfos on the bottom of Amud Aleph learns the exact opposite, which is the emphasis is in machlokes Rashi and Tosfos. And the second line of Lamegimel Amud Beis. Now we had the final part of the Mishnah. Are you yotzir mitzvah if you have no kavana? It sounds like if you're misasig, you're absent-mindedly blowing the shofar, then you're not yotzir mitzvah. But if you blow as a song, you are yotzir. And of course, this harkens us back to discussion a few days ago. Proof to Rava. Says the Gemara, no. Like we said over there, maybe blowing for a song is the same thing as misasig without any kavana. And we concluded the Mishnah and said, if you hear from someone that is just blowing absent-mindedly, you're not yotzing. Avol, says the Gemara, let's say you hear someone blowing shofar, who's blowing for themselves, and he does not have you in mind. Sounds like you would be yotzing. This is a question Rav Zira said to Hisham, have kavana for me, and it seems like you don't have to have kavana for the person. Says Gemara, no, maybe just use the same word, but not necessarily can you be medayik and learn out anything with precision from it. And now we get to one of the most famous Mishnayos in all of Masechtas Rosh HaShanah, Lamegimel Amud Beis, the Mishnah that deals with how many shofar blasts you blow and what are the order of the blasts. This is a discussion that we're going to begin today, and it will take us into tomorrow. Says the Mishnah, Seder Tekiyos, what is the order of the blowing of the shofar? Shalish, shalish. 3 sets of 3 sounds each. Tkiya, trua, tkiya. And how long is each tkiya? And of course, just to point out, we know that what we do is tkiya let's just say this, Tkiya, Shvarim, Trua, Tkiya, Tkiya, Shvarim, Tkiya, Tkiya, Trua, Tkiya. If you add that up, that is Tkiya, Trua, Tkiya, going up from the bottom is 3. Tkiya, Shvarim, Tkiya is another 3 is 6. Tkiya, Shvarim, Trua, Tkiya is 4 is 10. And that's what we get the basic 10 obligational blows is by doing Tashrat, Tarat, and Tashat, and Tarat. But as we're going to see, is where that comes from right over here. But number one is, see that Tkiya is Shalish, is 3 sets, Al Shalish of 3 each. Shir Tkiya, Kishalish Truas. How long is a Tkiya? Is like a Trua. Shir Truas, Kishalish Yavavais. How long is a Trua? Like 3 Yavavais whimpers. Now we'll see in the Gemara what that means. You blew one blow, and then the second one you did a double blow. And the statement that we've had many times, you only have the first blow, we cannot take the second one and have it mean anything. Someone who Mishabirach over here doesn't mean he made the bracha. It means he davened the Musaf, as you see in Rashi points out, Musaf, Ubirach Tisha brachas. You already said the Tefillah Musaf, and then you got your shofar. What should you do right now? Right now you should blow. Shofar shalish pamim 3 times, which of course this is a bit of a remes to that which one would do if someone isn't hearing shofar in shul. He would just do all the blasts in one concentration. Each and every person is obligated. Rabbi Gamliel Leimer sheikh sibar mitzis ram de chayvasan. The sheikh sibar blows for everyone. Says the Gemara. V'atanya, we learned in a brayso shir tkiya is kitrua, like a trua. What did our Mishnah say? Our Mishnah said that the shir tkiya is kishalosh truos. The brayso says the shir tkiya is like 1 trua. Amar Abaya Tana didan kachashev tkiya dekulu bavi, v'trua is dekule bavi. Tana bra kachashev chad bava v'su lo. This is called a semantical machlekes. What exactly we are referring to? We'll look at Rashi. Rashi is going to explain exactly what's going on over here. Tana didan kachashev de kulubavi vachi kamar shir shalosh tekiya is kishalosh truos. Our Mishnah didn't mean each tekiya is like 3 truos. Our Mishnah meant how long is the 3 tekiyas in total? Like the 3 truos in total. V'tana bra. What did the brayso mean when it said a tekiya is like a trua? Shirat tekiya kishirat trua. V'tarvayu chad milsa amri. They're both saying the same thing. Just making reference to different points. One is referencing one, and one is referencing to all of them. Says the Gemara about 10 lines to the bottom of the Amid, the Tudat, Shir Trua Ki Gimel Yevavois. The Trua is like 3 whimpers. Vatanya, similar question. We learned in a brayso, Shir Trua Ki Shalish Shvarim. 1 second. First, our Mishnah says a Trua is like a Yevava, a whimper. A brayso says a Trua is like a Shvarim, which we don't know what the word means yet. Amar Abaya Bahav Vatei Pliki. That's a machlekes. The pasuk says Yom Trua Yilachem Shvi Day of Block. And we translate, what does the pasuk mean? A day of Yevava should be for you. So we see that the word Trua, Yom Trua, the word Trua is the same word as Yevava. Uksiv, and it says Imedi Sisra, and it says by the mother of Sisra, which of course is one of the most fascinating sources, that Sisra was the evil general trying to destroy Klal Yisrael, and his mother is waiting for Sisra to come home. The mother of Sisra, the mother of the worst general, the mother of which one who's trying to destroy Klal Yisrael, is the source for blowing shofar. Absolutely incredible. She's waiting and looking out the window. And she cried, Aim Sisra, the mother of Sisra. That is the pasuk. So we see that Yevava means Trua, number 1, and we see Yevava means to cry. So now we have a machlekes. Mar Savar Ganuchi Ganach. One man to Amar holds the brayso says that what is Yevava? What is the cry? It's Ganach. She was moaning, which are longer sounds, like a Shvarim. Umar Savar Yalule Yalil, whereas our Mishnah holds she was sobbing, which is shorter whimpers. So we have two different ways of learning how Sisra's mother cried. Did she have longer moans like a genuchi, like a shvarim, or did she sob like a yalil? Which, of course, as we're going to see, we are machmir and we do all the different opinions, and therefore that is how we get to Tashrat, Tashan, and Tarat, from the fact that we want to fulfill the obligation that all we're really blowing is Tkiya, Trua Tkiya. That's all we're blowing. Like the Mishnah began, Seder Tkiyas is Shalish. That what are our Tkiyas? Our Tkiyas are, and Rashi says, one for Malchus, one for Zechanis, one for Shayfrais, is Tkiya, Trua, Tkiya. But we're seeing in our Gemara is the fascinating source for everything is what does the word Trua mean? We do not know. Either the word Trua means Trua, a Yalil, a short whimper, or the word Trua means a Ganuchi, like a Shvarim. So we don't know, is it a Shvarim or is it a Trua? And there's an opinion that holds maybe it's both. And that's the reason why we are Machmir, and that is why we get to our conventional blowing of Tashrat, Tashat, and Tarat, which really, again, each one is just an application of a Tkiya, Trua, Tkiya. Is it Tkiya, short whimpers, Tkiya, Trua, Tkiya? Is it Tkiya, long moans, Tkiya, Shvarim, Tkiya? Or is it both Tkiya, Shvarim, long moans, Trua, short whimpers, Tkiya, all coming from the word Trua, meaning the word Yalil, Yavava, meaning Yalil, from the mother of Sisra. We'll learn one more brayso before we call it a day. Tanu Rabbanim Minayin Shebeshayfer. How do we know that the Trua is done with a Shayfer? Tamalemer Vavarta Shayfer Trua. The pasuk says you should sound the shofar. Ainli ela b'yovel. That pasuk talking about yovel, Yom Kippur of yovel. Rosh HaShanah minayin tam leimer b'chodesh hashvi. It says on the 7th month. Shein tam leimer b'chodesh hashvi. Why do I have to say that? Umat tam leimer b'chodesh hashvi. Sheikol trua shel chodesh hashvi zekazeh. All the blowings in the 7th month, both of Yom Kippur should be less like Rosh HaShanah should be like Yom Kippur. So just like we see yovel of Yom Kippur is with a shofar, so too on Rosh HaShanah. Umenayin shebeshuta lefanel. And how do we know that we always have a tekiah before everything? The machlekes we just had a moment ago is what is a trua? How do we know we have a tekiah pre? Tamalemer vavarta shefer trua vavarta. And you should have a straight blast before the trua. How do you know that you have a tekiah afterwards? Tamalemer in the last line ta'aviru shefer, that you should straighten the shefer, referring to the you have a tekiah at the end. Again, those psukim are by yovel. Turning over to tomorrow's daf, and I don't have tomorrow's daf in front of me. I apologize. And tomorrow we will conclude as we move over to daf lamed daled Amir Tashem, and this is the incredible source of the different shofar blasts, and we'll pick up from here tomorrow.